Hello, you're listening to Ending Physician Overwhelm, and I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a physician and a life coach for physicians and other professionals. In this podcast, we look at why, as physicians, we often get stuck in feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and burnout, and how we can break out of toxic thought patterns. My hope is that each episode gives you an opportunity to heal and get more clear on how you want to show up in your life and your work. And now, let's get started. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the episode. Today, we are joined by Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez, who is a dual board-certified anesthesiologist and interventional pain management physician, as well as a serial entrepreneur and mastermind facilitator. And she is currently in the process of opening an innovative medicine and wellness center in Florida. Dr. Myrdalis, please welcome to the show.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks for your audience. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited to talk with you today. So thank you again. So let's launch right in. So, I have in front of me your bio, which contains just many sort of amazing things that would take too long to mention all of them. But, clearly you've been able to build this amazing career despite struggles with burnout. And so I'm hoping that you will just kind of get us started by sharing your story of burnout, what you experienced, what it looked like for you.
Well, as you say, it's been a little while since I've been a doctor. It's over 20 years now. And I've had different jobs through my career. I've worked for the hospital, for private practice, the university. I've had my own clinics, and that's the new project that we're opening as well. At the end of the day, I really found out that I'm really an entrepreneur. And then in my latest years is when I experienced burnout the most, to the point that I didn't notice it, but we had an employee that we've had for 8 months at that time. And one day she comes to me and she says, "Hey, I've never seen you smile since I've been here. Why is that?" And that really struck me. I'm not like that. I'm like usually happy and cheerful and positive, and hopeful. And that was what was happening. It was truly, I look back and I think the burnout is related to really the choices that we make. Mm-hmm. And then we get into these positions, these situations where it's very hard. And then people start talking about the golden handcuffs and other sort of situations where you just, at times the pain is so much that you are numb from the pain. Yeah. And that's where I was. So it was because of decisions I made to remain in different job situation, which really doesn't match with what I wanted, with my principles, with my vision, with my personality. It didn't match. And I thought that if I kept there, I could keep other areas of my life safe. Because one of the things that I've discovered through all this work that we've done, recovering from burnout through coaching, is that as humans, we have different needs. And I was guiding my life through two needs, which one is the need for love, that I will always have. Mm-hmm. That, like the love for my family, the love for my friends. And the other one was certainty. So I really wanted to provide with my family with the certainty that nothing, especially financially, was going to happen to them. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I was just dying alive. Yeah. And not smiling, going there, not sleeping well. My mom now tells me, and my sister, they were telling me this last week, how much younger they perceive me, how much happier they perceive me in all these last couple of years since I've decided to make these changes. So that's been my story, and it's been once, but that particular time when I was so down, it was really impactful. And it took this one person, completely unexpected, for me to tell me, hey, this is going on. And it's like, oh. Yeah. And then I put myself certain still under what we call limiting beliefs, still thinking it's a process. And I put myself like certain, this is okay. If this happens, then I change. And actually that came through. So then that I changed, I put myself that limit. And it happened, and it was fake. It really wasn't true. But then I had made this change already. And but here I am. I have to tell you that through entrepreneurship, really we have identified that as a tool for many physicians to really be able to come out of burnout.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And what you said, it's like, in order to cope with the extreme stresses we sometimes face as physicians, I shouldn't say sometimes, we often face as physicians, right? Literally, life and death situations, or just everything feeling urgent and important. And, as just the way the human brain is, we come up with these ways of coping, but with these very intense needs. So of course, universal need for love, we get that, right? But yeah, that strong need for certainty, to make safety, to make sure that your loved ones are going to be, secure, and really believing that you have that power, right? Because we often believe that it's all up to us, right? That if only we have enough money, or we have enough this or that, then everything is set and they will be okay. But interesting, how we set ourselves up for falls that way. But you're right, like we can be so numb to everything else and not notice that we're not smiling, that we're not living, that we're not being true to ourselves. And yeah, I love that you brought that up. It's so powerful.
So I found, for my recovery from burnout, there's some other things that you can choose. These are things that you can decide. And that's one of the things that I want to tell people who are feeling burnout, that you can make these decisions on your own. The things that sometimes you need that little nudge, and the knowledge that first we have choices, and two, we have to plan for it, and we have to be intentional. So the need for love, like you want to have that in your life. Many people will guide their lives on that. You can choose just a couple of things. And then, I have chosen to still be guided by love in my life. And I think that's a universal thing. And also by contribution, because if you are giving, it's going to be more meaningful. You have to decide what your values are in your life, and this has made sense for mine. So that's being able to get me out of there. There's some other people who choose significance, for example, and significance is more like about how people perceive you, which is a different thing. Some people that's when you have the Instagram post and the TikTok, and everybody's like looking at themselves and how am I perceived by others. So I decided not to have that in my life as guiding my life. There's also growth, which is really, really a good thing, like if you want to be growing. So in my case, I chose love and contribution instead of certainty and contribution. And then some people love uncertainty, for example. So uncertainty, they want to be moving all the time. They want to be changing, and that's what makes them excited. That's what makes their life, that fulfills their life, and that's what they choose. But when you're burnout, you don't think about any of this. You cannot,
it's all too much. No change.
It's too much. Just go away and leave me alone in my unhappiness here, because I don't know what else to do. I really have to be doing this. And if we, like you were saying, we think everything is important at a time, we don't get anything done.
Right.
So that's where, if you really define what's important in your life, your values, and then for yourself, like you do like a business plan, you do for a business, you do it for your life. So you determine your values, your priorities, your mission, your vision. You will see what's really important, and that's how you put your time towards. That's how you do your time management. That's the basics of time management, and that's how you can get organized and seek help.
Well, I noticed too what you said there. You said first you have to pay attention to the thought, the moment, when the MA came to you and said, you're not smiling, you chose to notice that and make it a bigger thing than you might have, right? You could have just completely ignored it. You could have said, what does she know? She's not, like that was a stupid thing to say. You could have just blown right past it, which is very easy to do in burnout, right? That cynicism piece. But you chose to notice it. And then I heard you say, recognize that you have choices and you have to plan for them. You can't just like wait for things to happen. So say more about, kind of what happened after she made that comment and you sort of noticed, right, I'm not smiling.
Well, I have to tell you, it's been, I'd say it's close to 5 years. So it was like 2 years before COVID that she did that. And then COVID came and no changes, and
all the
work
things
were really made at that time. But I did make changes like in terms of my activities, my relationship with my family, the way that I would show up to work, the way that I communicated with management. All those things change. I try to really understand. There was somebody who also during that period of time told me, so that means that you're unhappy with the choices you made. And so putting those two things together, the truth is at the end of the day, it's like I cannot blame anyone else but myself. I cannot blame management. I cannot blame Medicare or Blue Cross Blue Shield. I cannot blame, anyone else, because these choices, I have the choice. I chose to be in this position. And whenever you choose like to work in a certain environment, you have to take it with everything that comes with, like whenever you choose like a spouse, for example, if you're a spouse, you have to take it as it comes, and you spend so many hours at work, like you're it's like kind of a marriage, right?
Yeah.
So if I didn't like most of the things, then I should have stopped doing that job, right?
Yeah.
Or if I thought that it was a worthy challenge, then I should have worked on that in a different way and prepare myself in a different way. So that's what happened. I changed those things. I still remained in a position where I really wasn't a match for that position. And then eventually like my the limit that I told you came, boom. Okay, then that's it. And then at that same day, I made the decision and I'm gone.
Yeah. And sometimes, we have to stay put in whatever situation for some time while we try and figure out a next step. And of course, sometimes, it's so bad that we decide not to stay, but recognizing that it is a choice when you are staying. An imperfect choice, sure, but no one forces you to get up and go to work at that job. No one forces you to stay in medicine if you can't stand it. Of course, there are many complicating factors for all of our lives, but recognizing that there are choices there is just really important. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
One other thing before we go on is like, you asked me, what did you do? And I have to tell you that these things are not events. It just doesn't happen. Okay, I'm burnout. Okay, I recognize it. Oh, okay, I'm gone. Right, that doesn't happen. It's really a process, not an event. I'm attending. He would always tell the patient that's not an event. It's a process that's going to happen. So it's the same thing for us. It's this mental illness, right? This mental health. What we're talking about being burnout and having that control over your life. If you define happiness, that's one of the things that really make people happy. It's having control, having something that is going to be of importance for the community or for whatever it is, like that sense of creating, being part of something bigger. And all those things really take time and planning. And as physicians, we have been studying for so long as a physician that we're so ready for the reward. And when we get the reward and that doesn't match, it's like at times, we feel like everything else needs to come right away because we already studied as physicians all this long for all these other things. Like anything else we get in our lives should be an event at that
Easy.
point.
Yes.
And it's not. So we have to choose what our challenges will be. And that's another thing that we decided to do, is change our language. Instead of saying that is hard, then we've decided to say if it's a worthy challenge or not. So is that a worthy challenge? Am I going to invest my time on that? We try and we catch ourselves saying hard. It's like I pull myself back. If it's really a worthy challenge or not, am I going to invest my time? Is it aligned with my things? But all these things I'm telling you didn't come from an overnight event.
Yeah. I love that idea of, is this a worthy challenge or not? Right. Because that is going to be different for each of us, I don't know, think about like running a marathon. I think many of us could just say that that's hard, but some of us are going to find that that's a worthy challenge. And others are going to say, you know what? I'm not interested in that.
I'm going to run when they're following me, for example. So I'll do a different type of exercise. That's not a worthy challenge.
Yeah, not a worthy challenge for me either. We'll just admire from afar. I think that's great. And, of course, what happens a lot in the conversations that I have with my clients is, and so many, we think about this lack of autonomy that has come to medicine. And we tend to be, high achieving, high performing people. We have all this expertise and knowledge, and we want to be able to make decisions. And yet often we're in these positions where we have little or no autonomy in terms of so many things, schedules, medicines, insurance plans, formulary, kind of all of those different things. I'm wondering if you can speak to, sort of in your various entrepreneurship journeys, where you do have autonomy, what do you find, is kind of true with having those degrees of freedom, and that being something that sort of counteracts the sense of burnout, and maybe where you've hit up against your own limiting beliefs, especially in your businesses?
Well, you have to be careful, because one of the things that we tend to do is that, okay, I'm burnout, or we don't say burnout, like I'm tired, I'm lost,
right.
I'm
exhausted.
Like, no, you don't use the word necessarily burnout, or you don't recognize it, but if you do, you do. And then as physicians, we try to put more work on ourselves.
Yes.
And you keep
I just need
job,
to fix myself.
Yeah. And then you keep this job, and then, as you said, like sometimes you might have to do something else different, but you don't educate yourself for that other different thing. I was talking to somebody, and they said, yeah, and then you have these physicians who learn about this other physician, and they have, for example, a rental property that they're going to turn into an Airbnb, right? And that's entrepreneurship. Being a real estate investor is entrepreneurship, but like anything will require training, because there's details about that. It might be that your physician who's so happy coming to work, that physician knows everything about that property. It's a business plan. Each property should be a business plan. So whatever it is that you decide to do, you have to treat it with a seriousness. If it's really a side gig, if it's really a serious business, if it's really your hobby, your wellness activities that you're going to do, you have to treat them with the seriousness that's going to take. So you have to plan for it, you have to learn about them, and you have to see how that's going to impact your current position. So that's I think something that people don't really consider necessarily, because as I said, like you want just, and then you put more things on yourself, and you say yes, and that's one of the things you have to do. You have to stop, pause, take a breath, pause, and see what saying yes or no to something is going to mean in your life.
Yeah.
And then that's the way that you should start thinking about making changes when you're there, burnout, so that you don't add more stuff to yourself, either if it's entrepreneurship or if it's even more time with your family. Like we all want more, most of us want more time with our family.
Maybe not all day, every day, but
not everybody. I don't know, but that's a choice that we make too, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like we have to understand where all that fits into perspective, and it might be that during these next 3 months, for example, like I'm starting another clinic right now. So we know what it takes to start a clinic. We know about all the intricacies of it, the financial situation. And right now, where we're recording this is that it's in an empty building, and I have people building outside and getting people delivering things. And I know that I have to be here. And this is time, extra time as an entrepreneurship. I'm not as an entrepreneur, I'm not going to have with my family. But my family knows that we're going to have time here and there. So like time boxing, right? Yeah. And after these 3 months, we're hoping that then we can calm down, or, whatever it is, 6 months, you can choose whatever it is. But you have to understand how that new activity affects your life, what you're saying yes and what you're saying no to.
Yeah, no, I think that is important, because you're right. We, after so much time, invested in our medical training, we want things to just come easily on the back of that, right? Well, I did residency and I did fellowship and I worked for X number of years. Therefore, I should know how to be a real estate investor. And it's like, well, no, you have a lot of skills, right? You know how to study, you know how to make decisions, you know how to do this, but you are lacking the knowledge unless you've spent time in that. I think that's really important. And it may be worthwhile to invest your time, but you have to realize that you have to invest your time in order to do that.
And that's the thing, how we make things easy for us. And nowadays, nowadays, like that's why I created the maxAllure Mastermind we call it for physician entrepreneurs. Basically, if somebody's looking for a change in their lives, or if they're overwhelmed, or they have actually a business that they want to acquire momentum and they're kind of stuck, we help them making it easy. And we're not the only ones doing this. There's a lot of people helping physicians. And one of the things I say is that I think never has been a better moment in history for physicians to help each other. And there's help available. You really have to stop and sit down and relax and learn. Imagine, I put it into, now I'm comparing it to the pandemic, right? How long was that? 2020. We're mid 2022, so it's over 2 years ago. And it just went as a flash, right? At the beginning of it, like you're looking at so far away. Imagine when they have vaccines, maybe 18 months, and we got them earlier. And then that time went, and what sort of things could you have achieved in 2 years, right? And here many like way more overwhelmed. So if we have a commitment, in our case, it's a 6 months commitment, and you are able to achieve change with help, then, you can do just so many more things. So we're teaching physicians things that they don't teach us in medical school, things that we might have talked to our patients about, but we really don't know, because we're really not trained on doing these things. And that's a very important thing. Once you recognize, if you want to invest in that Airbnb, go and get trained first. And there's physicians right now who have done that right and left. And you start asking them, start getting together with physicians who do that type of thing. Get away from the ones, unfortunately, you can love them, but get away from the ones who are complaining all the time, because you're going to see yourself complaining all the time. And then go that way where things that seem to be flowing good, just go that way. Don't invest money until you know what you're doing. If you want it, you're going to lose some money at some point, right? But just educate yourself first. And they don't teach us real estate in medical school, but there's tons
or business skills. I found out recently, dentists learn business skills in dental school, because they usually will have their own practices. We didn't get any education.
Not us. But there's tons of reasons why, as physicians, we can make great physician entrepreneurs. Absolutely. And you don't have to be born like this, you don't have to be born into an entrepreneurial family. You don't have to have had these things from when you were little. It certainly helps to have that spirit and that experience, but it's something that can be learned. And it's not learned in medical school. It's not learned when you're doing your prior authorizations, or dictating, or doing your notes in the middle of the night. it's learned when you're dedicating yourself specifically to that learning activity.
Yeah. I think you're right what you said, that we've never had a better moment, for physicians teaching and coaching other physicians in all different areas, and for physicians being really innovative. If you look, kind of out in the world, you see physicians who are creating apps. You see physicians who are redesigning care models. Like one of my friends who's building a business, providing fourth trimester support for new moms in the home. She's a NICU pediatrician, like just really innovative care, doing things that we think are important that have been left out of traditional medicine, and yes, of course, all these different business opportunities, right? Owning and running your own medical practice, owning rental properties, any kind of number of other things. And all of course, these coaching programs that teach us, charting and business skills and ADHD management.
Just take some of our mastermind members. We've had physicians who come with an idea of being a coach.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, they have a coaching business. They're online. They're doing all these things. Or some others who want to do it, their physical or digital product. You can have all these ideas, and then you put them together. As long as you study it and you have planning, and then you have support and accountability, and coaching is so important, you can do it as a physician. And those things are available these days. And we have so many like Facebook groups that you can belong to, that physicians, there's physician community, physician side gigs, there's female physician entrepreneurs, there's like passive income ND, there's tons of them.
There's so many.
And you get advice from your peers who know your pain. Most of us have been burned out. Most of us have a story to tell you. So we really will understand where you're coming from. And then you say, oh, I don't have time. Well, if you keep going this way, you won't have time. This is the time.
You have to make the time.
Yeah. And that's where the priorities come through, right? If you learn what your life is about, then the time will appear. You will be able to be successful. And when we have the people come 1 hour a week, 2 hours to our group, you learn so much. You are exposed to many things that are different from what you've ever seen before. That then it's like, oh, now you start making the time, and then suddenly like all these other doors open. It's a process. It's not an event, and you have to first recognize that you have a problem that you want to solve. And I think this sense of being overwhelmed and lost is something that we all have had at some point to different degrees, and we have solutions for that.
Yeah, I love that. It's a process and not an event. And I think, as you said earlier, we are all on this journey, right? We are never burnout proof. We are never perfect in all of the things that we do, and we shouldn't try. We are all figuring it out at each stage, how we want to live things. And, if we're paying attention, like, what are those priorities? What do we want to be doing with our time? How do we want to serve others? And how do we want to take care of ourselves? No one does that work for us, but we can have support to encourage us and give us an accountability.
I would not give my future to anybody else. Nobody will have anything that's important as their own things, right? So like, don't you get upset when a patient tells you nobody called me? Right? You give them a prescription for something and they say, but nobody called me. Like, really? Nobody called you, but you didn't call them?
You didn't try?
Who's the person who wants to get better? So you want to get better. So we tell the patient, if somebody doesn't call you, just call them, because things happen. You cannot leave your future. You cannot leave your present in hands of anybody else but you.
Yeah. We only control ourselves. Yeah. And Yeah, no, I think that's so true. I mean, and I imagine specializing in chronic pain and pain intervention,
Oh my goodness.
you're
It's like,
really steeped in
yes.
that. But similar, if we think about that as an analogy for, for kind of burnout and overwhelm and victimhood, it's like we have to do things. We have to make choices and manage how we feel and how we show up the same way that someone with chronic pain needs to choose to do things, like exercise and choose to do, mindfulness or whatever kind of stress reduction in order to feel better. They won't just take a pill and it's all gone.
Yeah, but imagine this, like something that physical therapy can fix, okay? So
Mm-hmm.
as a physician, if a patient comes to me with an insurance, I know that it's going to take maybe 2 weeks for them to get that prior authorization, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then they get in. So I tell them, schedule the appointment right now, because schedule it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you have your first appointment. And then hopefully at the end of 6 to 8 weeks, they've had enough physical therapy that I can see them again and make a reassessment, right? So then I see them at 6 to 8 weeks later, and they say, nobody called me. Your pain could have been gone like a month ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, like,
yeah.
So same thing, like you are burnout and then saying that you don't have time right now.
Yeah.
Your pain from the burnout could have been gone a long time ago if you had decided, make the decision to make it your priority and not blame anybody else. And I tell you these things because yes, we have some other issues like serious mental issues like depression, anxieties, and other things that are, and I'm talking separate from those, or addictions or things like that. But still, there's no better predictor than when somebody recognizes it and is ready. You don't wait for anybody else to come. I was fortunate that somebody came to me and told me, hey, you haven't smiled since I've been here in 8 months. And it wasn't her fault. She was a lovely, lovely person. And I'm glad that I took that into heart. And it's like, like this shouldn't be her experience. Like I should be really in the position I am. It's not her problem. My problems are not her problems.
Yeah.
And I want her to be also hopeful of the future and telling her how many good things, and for our patients to be happier and have a better experience. So when you feel that you have that control, like many physicians can get through passive income from other sources, or from opening their own clinics, or from having entrepreneurship adventures that give them that freedom, you come better to work. Your patients do better. The experience that you have in your clinic, your office, whatever your setting is of your personnel, everything's much better. Just that change of me smiling again, that makes such a difference. And I love this MA, and now she's a nurse, and I went to her graduation, and it changes. I call it the like the Monsters Inc. Method, like or philosophy. So when Monsters Inc. in the movie, you see that people are unhappy and they produce so much energy. But when they decide to make jokes, the energy just goes so much higher. And I'm not telling you to start doing jokes tomorrow at work, but the energy changes. And it's so much better for you, for your family. When you come, you're a different person. So it's very important that first you recognize, you seek help, it's available, options are available, and don't let it on any other, nobody else's hands.
Yeah. Don't wait. Don't wait for someone else to do. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I'm wondering, you've shared a lot already, but is there anything else that you would want a provider who is struggling with burnout right now to know?
It's first, you have to pull yourself out of that environment of burnout somehow, right? So recognizing is going to be the most important thing. Recognizing that you have the problem, pulling yourself out of any environment that has that negativity. And when I tell you that, it doesn't mean like you don't stop working. Like if you're in such a mental situation or physical situation that you're at you're not safe, you just pull yourself out from that, right?
Yeah.
If somebody's going to attack you with a knife or a gun or something, you just go away. So you pull yourself out of that situation. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to quit right away, right? But you can start by stop the negative talk.
Yeah.
Stop that. You stop meeting with people who that's all they have. Like if you go to the doctor's lounge, if there's one left in your hospital where you're working, we're lucky that we have one here in our local hospital. But if they're talking on that table that you prefer to sit is negative stuff, no, go to the table where they look happy. And then ask them about, so just start making those choices. Those are choices that we make. And you can love your friends. As I said, you can love your family. If your family comment is 5, 5, 5, 5, you have to look for a positive environment. Then you have to look for time where you can really process all these things, what your next steps are going to be. You have to write down. Some people do journaling and making sure, what the problem is. One of the things that journaling has helped me with is to be more grateful, because many times we focus on so much. And then when you start writing, if you start writing negative things, and then you say like, every day, is this the way that I want to define my life? So journaling can help you. It doesn't matter, where people come from, or what background or sex or whatever it is. They will understand themselves if they start writing about themselves. And then you read your notes like, that person who wrote that, is that who I want to be? And then seeking help. So seeking help, it comes in many different ways. I'm very fortunate that I have a friend who is my business coach, and I meet with her periodically. And it's an eye-opener. It's like, why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that? And you can have different styles. So you have to identify what type of help you're going to get, support, accountability. That can be through a psychologist, that can be through a coach, that can be through a mastermind like we have, where we have support. Like we have the combination of support, accountability, teaching you a curriculum of things that you would need to be able to make the transition, doesn't matter which stage you are, as I've said. And then getting you specific coaching that's for your problem that you have right now. So we help you define where you need help with, and then get out. So you have to seek for that help, and making sure, once again, it's in your hands. You have options. You're not alone. Don't be embarrassed about feeling this way, because I have to tell you that we all are in the same boat. Unfortunately,
it's an occupational hazard.
Yeah.
not a personal failing. Yeah.
No, and I'm telling you, like, look for people. And if you join something, or if you have a coach and you feel like, some time goes by and it's not progressing, not cooking, then, you can change. It's like the same way if we give somebody a medication, you wait so many weeks or so many days or so many hours for it to work. If it doesn't work, you make a change. So we do the same thing in this way. So treat it with the seriousness that you treat any patient who comes here to their problems, because it's a serious problem, not only for you, but all of those who surround you. But more than anything for you, what do you want to do with your life? Through COVID, we learned how life, we lost so many, for example, and we lose, many people every day, but that was so intense that how do you want to live your next day, your next hours? It's something that we start by recognizing and learning that from ourselves. So we really have to take the time to learn that from ourselves.
Right. The time is now, to really get clear on what you want, who you are. Yeah. That's so good. So good. Tell my listeners how they can find you to learn more about your mastermind and the work that you're doing.
Well, I have to tell your listeners that you're very fortunate, because in August, when this is published, we have a webinar coming through so that you can learn more. We can go through an exercise together. I explain to you how to thrive as an entrepreneur. That's going to be in August, and you can learn all about it in our website, maxallure.com. That's M as in Mary, AXALLURE.com. We also have a podcast. It's called Design Your Physician Life. And in that podcast, we give specific tips that you can use right away for all the different entrepreneurial topics that we have. We have a presence on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook as well under Dr. Myrdalis Diaz or Dr. Myrdalis Díaz-Ramírez. And that's it. So maxAllure.com, it will be the source of all these things.
Great. And I saw you've got your podcast right embedded in your website. And so it's really easy for people to find it there as well. So we'll have links to that in the show notes for people. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really great conversation.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks everybody, and good luck. Please, there's hope. There's hope. Just take the time, sit back and relax. There's hope. There's help.
Yes. And I'm just going to say it one more time. If you missed it, think about recovery from burnout as a process and not an event. It's so important. And it really starts with noticing, recognizing choice, and making plans.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. Well, everyone have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Ending Physician Overwhelm. If you've learned something today or felt moved, please share this episode with a colleague, and be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode yourself. If you'd like to know more about me and my coaching practice, you can find more information at www.healthierforgood.com. Until next time, take care.